What's up, nerds? Welcome to continued coverage of GP Sao Paulo. My name's Riley, and joining me here in Sao Paulo, it is Sao Paulo Vida Dama de Rosa. You get 2 Paulos for the price of 1 Sao this weekend. It is a fantastic value. Player of the Year sitting to my right. Of course, we're on our screens, however, we have Breno Magalhães and Pedro Perini. We saw Magalhães in an earlier round. Paulo playing his red-green Eldrazi deck. This one won a GP a couple of months ago in the hands of Gregor Kowalski. And so it's got the pedigree.
Yeah. And, you know, ironically enough, that is a deck that we built on our team.
Oh, yeah?
And then, the first time that obviously Eldrazi is a deck that existed. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to say we built Eldrazi. But this version of Red Game Eldrazi, the first time anyone played it in a tournament, it was Greg for the PT, the modern PT a couple months ago. And then he played it again in a GP, and then he top 8'd it. And that's when
he won the whole thing.
And then he won, and that's when the deck became more popular. But there's some changes in it already. Like, we didn't play, Boreal Druid in the first version. I think it's quite a good card. Yeah. I certainly understand why it's there.
Yeah, it's not often that we see a colorless mana dork prioritized over something like a Llanowar Elves, but here, Boreal Druid producing colorless mana, fantastic with Thought Not Seer, Reality Smasher.
Yeah, and the thing that it does is give you some Blood Moon protection. Because Blood Moon turning off your color sources is a huge issue, which, doesn't look like it should be the case, but you just can't cast a creature if there's a Blood Moon in play unless you have something like a Mind Stone or a Boreal Druid. So it happens to be a mana creature that gives you, a lot more protection from that than something like a Llanowar Elves would. So maybe if Blood Moon wasn't in the format, it wouldn't be playing Boreal Druid, but since it is main decked in some decks, that card I think has a place.
Looks like there's a discussion going on at the table right now about something or other. I'm not exactly sure what's happening there. But, yeah, it is interesting to think about that red-green Eldrazi, not really a 2-color deck. It's actually a 3-color deck.
Yeah, it definitely is a 3-color deck. But it also has a bunch of tri-lands. Yeah. Like Carpulzan Forest and Grove of the Burnwillows are just tri-lands.
Like untapped tri-lands, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you thought, dual lands were too good for Modern. And, Grove of the Burnwillows actually has a special role in this matchup that makes it much better than Taiga would be.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can give your opponent life. And, that's devastating if you're playing as Death Shadow. Death Shadow often plays a 1/1 Death Shadow. And then you just go give them 1 life, Death Shadow dies.
And they can't interact with that either.
No, they can't do anything. Yeah. It could not be in play. You play it, you tap it, it's gone. And, it's the kind of thing that I think if you're playing against Death Shadow and you're playing against Death Shadow, in this spot, Brennan would just play Growth turn 1 and give his opponent a life already.
Yeah.
Because, you have more power than the Death Shadow deck does. Your creatures are huge, they're harder to interact with. But
you're not winning by inches, right? You're attacking for 5 trample haste,
Yeah, exactly. And, one of the ways you lose is they play a big Death Shadow early on, and that just becomes bigger than their creatures. But if you buy enough time, ironically, by giving them life, then they just cannot play the Death Shadow and develop their game plan.
Yeah, it's 1 step back to take 2 steps forward later here. And we see Magalhães without a turn 2 play. He does have that Eldrazi Temple, but nothing to show for it here as Perini continues to develop his mana. He's down to 17. And, of course, he'll continue that onslaught on his own life total, thanks to Death Shadow. It's a deck that, well, look, tries to take advantage of the fetchland, shockland mana bases of Modern. Often we see 3-color lists. They effectively start the game on 15 life, and Death Shadow's more than happy to do that.
Yeah, also, ironically, a deck where, Watery Grave is better than Underground Sea would be, which is not very common. But yeah, it's funny that, you're like, oh, I'm giving my opponent life. That's usually a bad thing. But then the other deck just takes damage for no reason. Like, they'll fetch, at the end of the turn and take 2 damage and not do anything with the mana. So it's a zero-sum game, right? If it follows that, if they want to take damage, it follows logically that you want them to not take damage.
Yeah, you want to just do the opposite of what they want to do. Exactly. As we see now, Gurmag Angler come down. Going to exile 6 cards out of the bin to make this 1 mana 5/5.
Yeah, and the other card that is key in this matchup for Brenna, it's actually in his hand, is Eldrazi Obligator. And it does 2 things. The first thing that it does is often it just outright kills Death Shadow. Because if you steal it, you are not going to be lower than 50 life at that point in the game, and it's just going to die. And the second thing is it just kills your opponent. Because often they go to such low life totals, because they want Death Shadow to be big, that if you just play an Obligator, you still, it doesn't even have to be Death Shadow, it could be Gurmag Angler. You're attacking for 8 out of nowhere. Yeah. And they're often at less than 8. As you said, they often start the game at 15. Sometimes they start the game at like 11. They have Street Raves, they have Dual Lands, Thoughtseizes. They take a lot of damage. And the 3/1 haste that both steals a blocker and ends another haste attacker is very powerful against this deck.
Mana Reshape of the pick from this Ancient Stirrings, yet another Ancient Stirrings deck here, PV. This card is everywhere in all these colorless decks. Now we see that Reshape played thanks to the Eldrazi Temple.
Yeah, and as far as Ancient Stirrings decks go, this is probably the most fair one.
Yeah.
It's just trying to hit his land drops and play creatures. Like, it's a nice deck. It's not like, oh, Tron turn 3 Carnu or KCI, you'll watch me for 10 minutes and then die. It's the most fair Ancient Stirrings. It's still a very good card in there because Eldrazi Temple is so good. So it's basically a spell that digs for Eldrazi Temple while also finding new threats when you already have the mana. So this double flexibility makes it very powerful.
I like your observation about the KCI when they get to the end game and it's you sit and watch them play Magic for a little bit. Often KCI catch a lot of heat, especially from Twitch chat, being like, oh, boring, whatever else. But like that is what you're doing. You're sitting and watching someone play Magic, and that's the reason you tune into Twitch chat or to Twitch on Magic is to watch people play Magic. And people are complaining about KCI. I don't know. There's no pleasing some people, Paulo.
Well, there are different definitions of playing Magic, I guess. They watch.
They're taking game actions. They're tapping mana.
But I think they want to watch two people play Magic, not one.
Okay. Well, apparently beggars can be choosers, it would seem.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I mean, whether they're right to want that,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, we don't need to get to that, but all the same, here we go. Now, no KCI to be seen this round at least. Grixis had a bit of a blast from the past here. Bit of a blasto from the pasto because this deck has really not been at the forefront of the format for quite a number of months.
Yeah, Pedro putting those cards in play as opposed to straight in the graveyard kind of tilts me a little bit. I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to that.
Yeah.
There's people who just play Rampant Growth, throw it in the graveyard.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, search for land first, it's in play. And then are there people who just cycle straight Wraith to play instead of to graveyard? Like, no, that one actually goes straight to graveyard.
No respect, PV.
I'm a purist in that, but...
Oh, dear. Do you still keep your graveyard in order in Modern, even though you don't have to?
No.
No. Oh,
I don't... Yeah.
You're not that much
they had to call my attention in Legacy because of, like, I just shuffled it out. And they're like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean...
So please excuse me.
I promise I don't play Corpse Dance. But... Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned, a blast from the past, and this is what happens in the Modern format. New decks appear from time to time, and they never leave. They just become a smaller portion of the metagame. So you say, a couple years ago, there was no Death Shadow. Like, there was, the Zoo Death Shadow deck that no one plays anymore. And then you're like, oh, now this is the Grixis and Jund Death Shadow boom. So a lot of people are playing Death Shadow. It's the most popular deck. It's the deck to beat. And then, and there's the blast from the past from TM. And then, Death Shadow is not the deck to beat anymore, but it didn't become 0%.
No.
Now it's, 7%, like every other deck. And, there's Jund Death Shadow. It's not a deck to beat anymore, but it's 4%. It still exists. So we're just adding more and more decks to the pool, and every time a new deck comes up, every 7%er becomes a 6%er. And then that's how you end up with a 30-deck metagame like Modern, because decks join, but they very rarely leave.
Because there's a very flat power level across the top decks of the format. They're all on a similar... they're all within a similar kind of realm of power level. Although, I mean, there are lists that have been pushed out of the format almost completely due to better versions coming along. The example I give is Merfolk, right? Merfolk just does bad humans, and so now humans has kind of eclipsed that deck. So we do see some decks depart, but largely speaking, especially now in today's Modern, like Jund has come and gone in the sense that it was very highly played. Now it's less played, but yeah, it hasn't been eradicated.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, we've seen black-green decks in this tournament. There's black-green, Jund, Abzan. There's Sultai, even. I think that was on camera round 1 yesterday.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. And then you have Mardu, which is just another version of Jund in different colors. So there's just decks really do change. And yeah, your point about Merfolks and humans, I agree that, in my opinion, humans is just a better version of Merfolk. It does what Merfolk's trying to do, but better. But there's still people playing Merfolk.
Yeah,
they're still just the Merfolk guys.
They'll
be playing Merfolk forever.
Yeah. They're rusted on at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we did the metagame breakdown. There are Merfolk players in this tournament, and they're doing well, too. It's not like, it's worse humans in the sense that it might be, 1% less likely to win than humans, which would just make it worse humans. But, winning 55% of your games or 54%, you can still just win the tournament.
Reality Smash the play here as it comes across now and slaps Perini down to 6. And let's see what Perini's next move is. He does have these enormous 5/5 blockers. He is on a perilous life total here.
Yeah, and I mean,
and
that
again,
Eldrazi Obligator is going to do a lot of damage.
What about that Thought Scour there?
That's not going to do any damage.
No, it should be on top of those 2 cards that he milled.
It should, yeah, but that I'm less of a purist about.
Really? So you got some weird criteria, my friend.
Yeah, the criteria is mostly what annoys me.
Okay.
And then what annoys me shouldn't be legal. I don't mind putting them on, but yes, the card should have just gone straight to the graveyard, which would naturally lead to the Thought Scour being put above it.
Yeah. The world according to
if you have any respect for the game, of course.
If
you don't care at all, like Pedro, then just do whatever you want.
Just chuck them all over the place.
Just have your graveyard fanned out, upside down.
Yeah, sitting on your head. Yeah.
And it's funny that for a very long time, one of the things people complained the most about me was that I played with my lands on top of my spells.
You're a monster.
And that's not legal anymore.
No, good.
So I had to relearn.
Yeah.
It's actually a common thing in a lot of Brazil. Obviously, it depends on how you were taught to play, right?
Yeah.
It's a common thing for a lot of Brazilian stores. So a lot of Brazilian players, if you see them,
just kind of pick up on it.
They'll try to play it like that, and then the judge will have to be like, no, you can't do that anymore.
I'm very glad you're not leading that charge for evil anymore. Here's an Eldrazi Obligator, and we're going to see the trigger put on the stack as well. And this could be that sequence that you were talking about here, PV, where an Obligator just completely takes over the game, and this could be the last spell cast here.
Oh, it definitely will be. I mean, there will be 4 attackers and 1 blocker, and Predator's at 6. So, it's just a huge, huge swing. If you've ever played that Overseer card in Dominaria,
Keldon
Overseer,
yep.
It's not even that good in that format, but when you do play it, it's like you get 2 attackers and they lose a blocker, so it's just like you effectively added 3 attackers to your board for the price of 1 card, and it catches people off guard a lot.
And it's just done exactly that here with Pedro Perini going down after a huge onslaught there from Bruno Magalhães. I like the way that he played that, slowly building up the board, keeping the pressure down where he could, of course, while Perini was trying to poke in with those Gomag anglers, but ultimately not enough, and the Eldrazi player gets across the line. I'm not the biggest fan of Eldrazi decks generally. Don't like the flying spaghetti monsters too much, but they're really, obviously nowhere like they were at the peak during, what was it, February 2016.
The Eye of Ugin days?
The Eldrazi winter. But it's good to see that the flag is still being flown, and it shows you at least a little bit that, these decks never really depart the format altogether.
Yeah, and when you say you don't like it, do you mean you don't think they're good, or do you mean you don't like them like you don't like Tron? You hate
on a philosophical level.
On a you don't like it.
On a philosophical level, I don't like them. It's funny. I think that there is a level of, I know this is to you, it probably just won't make any sense at all, but like the flavor of the cards, they're unsettling, right? They're these weird alien type monsters. They're not. They don't appeal to me. I don't enjoy playing with them. I don't like seeing them. They make me uncomfortable on some, which obviously, it's very easy for me because I don't have to win Pro Tours and I don't have to be the best player in the world or whatever else like that, so I can be less spiky with my card choice. But yeah, the Eldrazi, just like, they give me the willies, man. I don't like them.
Would you like them if there were more? I feel like the Eldrazi are mostly just form. Would you like them if they have more substance to them?
Yeah,
because the way I see them, if you've ever watched Attack on Titan, they're just those giants attacking the city, and you don't know why they're doing that, and you don't really care why. You just want to defend yourself. Yeah. That's how I see the Eldrazi. And would you feel better if they were like evil masterminds that you could, relate to? Not that you were an evil mastermind yourself, but a more thought-based.
Yeah, if they were more
character.
Sort of within the orthodoxy of established fantasy realms, I think I'd be a lot more willing to, or I'd be a lot less uncomfortable facing it. But I think that they do have that effect, which obviously isn't something that's very high on the radar of most competitive players. But nah, man, they just, as I say, just give me the willies.
You'd be surprised. Competitive players come on all ranges. You have like Ben Stark, who is like, why do cards have pictures in them? I don't understand.
Yeah, he just wants.
Why do they have names? This should just be a number.
He just wants letters and numbers.
You're crazy. And if you want to know Ben Stark, you can just tweet at him and ask for flavor questions. Yep. He's a very good flavor judge. You'd be like, hey Ben, is this board allowed to carry this sword or whatever? He'll be delighted. And then there are people who are like, Phylactery Lich, that's such a sweet card. Yeah. Because I've played Dungeons and Dragons and I know that Liches can't die if their Phylactery isn't destroyed. Yeah. So you're like, what an amazing card. I'm never going to play it. Maybe, I might.
If I could find a way,
I really like that this card exists. Yeah. Because, and it's how I started playing Magic.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, wow, Fireball, I love that. Dragon's Magic. And I didn't care about the numbers at first.
Yeah.
Now I do, but I also care about the flavor. And the Eldrazi I have mixed feelings about them. I like some. They're different. They're not the usual fantasy trope. Mm-hmm. But as you mentioned, and I think that's both good and bad.
I think it's kind of the point, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I think that the takeaway that I get from them is that you can be destructive without being evil, necessarily.
Yeah,
and
it's that sort of.
They're a villain that is not necessarily evil.
They don't have like the motive. It's like in The Last of Us, all the plant zombies. They're just kind of. there. They're just doing their thing. They're not motivated by something that you can relate to. It's this kind of alien motivation. Yeah, I don't know. It's cool, and it's cool that they exist. But yeah, you'll never catch me playing red-green Eldrazi. Breno Magalhães, on the other hand, is doing very well with it indeed. 10-1. Perini undefeated so far, 10-0-1. His scoreboard looking pretty healthy. But of course, at 1-0 down, he's going to have to win 2 on the trot if he wants to get back in this match here. Let's have a look and see what these opening hands look like. Magalhães with the original. Is that the Ice Age Carplusen Forest there?
Oh, yeah. Another thing I don't care about in the least.
Oh, yeah.
But some people are real. Yeah, they're like, how dare you play the mountain from this set and not from this other set?
We had an 8-rack player in before PV. I don't know if you saw in the feature match area. An 8-rack player who didn't have didn't have the PV land station mismatch base. He had a very deliberately mismatched base with an old 4th edition swamp, a full art Amonkhet swamp, a land station basic one. Like he had crafted.
It's fun that you say deliberate because to you, no one could come up with that without it being trying to insult someone.
Yes, exactly.
But no, the truth is we don't care.
No,
that's how it ends up like that.
This guy clearly had gone to some lengths to make his mana base as unaesthetic as possible. Which. I mean, you do you. I respect that. Fine. But, I still don't like it. Let's move on now and see what's happening here with Perini kicking things off with a Mishra's Bauble.
Yeah, and here, interesting, Mishra's Bauble is secretly one of the most powerful cards in Modern if you can abuse it in some way, which that can. You have fetch lands, and you have cards like Street Wraith. So you play Mishra's Bauble, then you sack it, you look at your top card. If you like it, then, you can't scry it, you just look. But if you like it, you just cycle Street Wraith or you don't sack your fetch. If you don't like it, then you just cycle your fetch land. So it effectively gives you a scry 1 and a draw, which I believe he actually led with the fetch land and then played the bubble. So he didn't give himself the option of liking the card, which I believe he would do only if he didn't have a non-fetch land in hand. Because it's usually better to just lead with the bubble, and then if you do like the card, you're not going to fetch, you just play a dual land. Right?
Yeah.
But if you just lead with the fetch and you like the card, well, you're
kind of locked in.
No. I mean, if you were casting a sorcery, that is. Which he wasn't.
Yeah,
if you're casting an instant, then you just pass, and then you draw the card, and then you cast your instant. He had Thought's Cower, so it makes sense why he did that. But it's a good general habit to have that you just, before you play your fetch, you just sack your bubble, then you'll see what's up.
Noble Hierarch now, and we do see that Grove of the Burn Willows. So Magalhães will be looking to pad the life total of Perini as much as possible here, Paulo.
Yeah, and we talked about this, earlier on. This is one of the few matchups where giving them life is actually a good thing. So this Grove of the Burn Willows is better than a Taiga. It adds 3 colors and not 2.
Yeah.
And it gives them life, which is ironically a good thing.
Actually a good thing in this situation, yeah. So 6 cards exiled to the Delve ability of Gurmag Angler. So Grixis Shadow firing on all cylinders, I'd say, here.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting too with Grove is that if you're playing a deck like KCI, or even Tron, if you're playing KCI, you don't care about their life total, right? You're dealing 200 damage or 0. It doesn't matter. So even if you don't know what your opponent's playing, you have a Grove on turn 1, you lead with giving them life.
In case they're playing.
Because they might be playing Death Shadow.
Shadow exists.
They might be 5% to play Death Shadow, but you're not losing absolutely anything. And when they are playing Death Shadow, you're gaining.
You roll that 20, you feel like a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just almost no one does that. I don't think we've seen it yet. But if you don't know what your opponent is playing, it is correct to just give them life.
That's
if you're
crazy.
playing KCI.
Yeah,
not if you're playing Eldrazi.
But if you're playing KCI, because you're going to win by miles rather than inches. Wow, next level pro strats.
Yeah.
With PVDDR. Boreal Druid replacing that Noble Hierarch, but once again, man down, or elf down, I should say, as the Bolt takes care of the 1-1. Perini really looking to disrupt the mana of Magalhães, who still has a fair few lands to play, and I think he's just drawn an Ancient Stirring, so that should be able to find some action here, which I have to say, PV, he does really quite desperately need.
Yeah, he does have a Matter Reshaper, which, is more than Pedro actually has. But yeah, for sure.
And again, here we see Magalhães activating the second ability of Grove of the Burn Willows. He has given Perini, I think, 3 life now.
Yeah, and he didn't have to.
Yeah.
So I had to play, but he must have already played this matchup or, figured it out very quickly. But it's not the kind of thing that you just come up with on the fly. Maybe I'll give my opponent life. But yeah, and that Dismember was particularly devastating because you play an early 5/5 against a red-green deck, you expect that to maybe even, go all the way. Like, at worst, trade with a Meta Reshaper, which is a card that costs 5. But then Dismember is, one of those rare cards that let you play, it kind of breaks the color pie. Not, it's black, so it doesn't break anything, but it lets a deck like Red Green Eldrazi play a removal for a Gurma Angler for only 1 mana.
It does break that part of Magic's integral philosophy where a mono blue deck or a red-green deck can play what is almost a hard removal spell.
Yeah.
Which is not something that, the traditional rules of the Magic Color Pie division would let happen. Meta Reshaper survives the turn. A Grim Lavamancer has entered the battlefield, however, on the side of Perini. Plenty of fuel for the fire here, as the old Lavamancer Arena will be able to knock that the 3/2 down to size, but not till next turn, so it's good to hustle and bustle at least for now. A lot of lands in the hand of Magalhaes. He does have that Ancient Stirrings, however, so might fire that off and see what he can work with.
Yeah, and having a lot of lands isn't necessarily bad for this deck because there are expensive cards he can draw. He can draw into a 5-drop. I don't know his exact list, but maybe they play Endbringer sometimes, and there's certainly play Reality Smasher, so he could just draw into a card he wants 5 lands to cast, whereas Pedro doesn't have much use for his 5th land ever. So I guess he could Snapcaster Kolaghan's Command. That is the one scenario where it comes up, but Pedro would desperately like to never draw a land again for the rest of the game. And, there are not that many lands in his deck anyway, so it's not something that can happen.
Forest gets searched off of that wooded foothills here. We'll see what Magalhaes is up to now. Looks like it's going to be that Ancient Stirrings here, PB. See what he can find off the top. Perini is more than happy to let that one resolve.
Yeah, Perini was like, he pretended to think for a bit.
I wasn't buying it.
Yeah, there's nothing you can be thinking about. And you're not going to have Stubborn Denial in your deck, against Red Green Eldrazi post board. So
looks like Perini may have gone to the Neymar Jr. acting college there.
Oh, yeah, that was bad. I saw that a little bit. It was not pretty.
And the Oscar goes to the Brazilian national football team.
It's funny that, if you're playing soccer, you're like, yeah, whatever, he's stupid. If you're playing Magic, it's like, DQ this person immediately.
Yeah.
So
I wish they would do that. I wish the judge would come on and say, DQ, no prizes. You're out.
Yeah, I believe, playing Magic has given me way less tolerance for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my family about soccer, and they're like, "Yeah, whatever." I'm like, "That's cheating. How do you not see that it's cheat? There's cameras. Like we can see that he didn't touch him.
Yeah,
he should never be allowed to play again." And they're like, "Yeah, whatever. It's part of the game."
It's not. Oh,
I'm like, it's a stupid game, and that's part of the game.
Imagine if that happened in Magic. Imagine you got to hand back the you've just shuffled your opponent's deck. You got to hand it back to them, right? And they kind of brush their hand with yours, right? And then they just fall on the ground. They're rolling around and screaming, and you call a judge over, and it's like, dude, I just cut his deck.
Yeah. Oh, the card viewer game is on point. The cheating thing.
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
and also the kind of thing, they throw the ball, and then it's going to score, but then you just jump and throw your hand at it.
Yeah, like basketball.
And you
just
knock
block it. Yeah.
And you knock it off in a soccer game, and you're like, well, that's a penalty. And you're like, yeah, but are you going to fix it? It was going to be a goal.
Yeah.
It's like, I believe it was you that said, we're playing a game.
Yeah.
I play a card. You're like, you just throw that card on the floor. You don't like it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, that's a warning, but that card's gone now.
Yeah.
Or like, well,
Just take the card, just eat it.
Good beats,
It's
yeah.
gone, yeah. They can't play that anymore.
It's really weird, this Magic background.
Oh, man. Soccer ball is just, I don't know what's going on there. Here's a Death Shadow for Pedro Perini, little 4/4. Or 5/5, I should say, excuse me. And Magalhaes is still not being able to find that 5th mana just yet. We'll see if he's able to deploy something huge like a Reality Smasher, and maybe a Thought Not Seer this turn.
Yeah, and he does have that Obligator, which he can use to immediately kill the Death Shadow.
That's a nice one too. Yeah, 5 mana is the key number here in that regard.
And now I believe is the time to start being aggressive. You don't want to give your opponent life more at this point. You just want to kill them. They're 8. They have no cards. So I believe the play here is just Obligator, target Death Shadow. Then Death Shadow will die. You cannot take a pain if you do that, though. You actually do have to give them 1 life. You need to use the grow for red mana. Because if you take a pain, you go to 14, then Lavamancer can actually shoot you down to 12.
Oh, and keep it alive.
Which means Death Shadow won't die.
How do you see this? Like, this isn't a joke. Honestly, how does that information get processed in your brain so quickly?
Well, I mean, when you're playing Death Shadow, when you're stealing Death Shadow, you have to think, well, if I'm can I be at? Well, do I have to be
But hang on. That line is 3 levels deep.
I guess.
And it just comes to you like that. Like I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to build and make. I genuinely don't understand how that information gets processed so fast in your brain. That's insane that you can think of that within 15 seconds of looking at that.
He thought about that too.
But he didn't do it. He didn't do it immediately. It took him time.
Oh, sure. I don't know. It's just you try to see. You can't look at everything. So you have to think, what are the relevant factors in this situation? And the relevant factor is my life total.
Yeah.
Right? And it has to be 13 or more for the Death Shadow to die.
You look at everything that could change
and you're like, what can deal me damage?
Yeah.
And you're also like, well, if my opponent has a Lightning Bolt in hand, then I'll be at 12, then it won't work, except they have no cards. So in that spot, you're like, well, the only thing that can happen is the Green Lava Master. And another consideration was that if we got to a point where Peter was at 1 fewer life than he was, then he wouldn't need to do that, and he would be able to take the pain, because the Green Lava Master would be forced to shoot one of the creatures. Otherwise, he would get a 1/1 Death Shadow, and he would attack for 7 and kill him. But since he was at 8, that play is not possible. So you have to think of all the different interactions and how they work.
It's just the speed of it is what just baffles me here. In comes the 3/2. Looks like the Grim Lava Mancer activation once again going to take care of it, as we saw. Just a Faithless Looting cast as the only card in hand. Obviously, just looking to fill out that graveyard there as Perini.
Yeah. I think that the key is just, focus on what matters. Identify what are the factors that matter in this situation and what can influence them.
And obviously, the faster you do that, the better you're going to be at Games of Magic, because you spend less time tanking, more time doing, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, the faster you do that, you have to identify the factors, and then you have to see what can change the factors. So if you're really quick at identifying the factors, then it also gives you more time. You can't take forever. So it gives you more time to think about how all the external factors influence it.
And then, before you know it, you are Shota Yasuoka.
Yeah, well, that man plays so quickly.
Oh my goodness me. It
is absurd, yeah.
He is a robot. Beep boop. Magic bot.
And it's easy to play quickly. It's hard to play quickly and well.
And well, yeah.
It's like when just like
you got to thread that needle.
Yeah, people are like, wow, this person is such a great deck builder. He built 10 decks. They're like, well, it's very easy to build a deck. You just random 60 cards, that's a deck. You have to build good decks. That's what makes a good deck builder. And it's the same thing, like, it's very easy to play quickly. You have to just play quickly. But, playing quickly and thinking about things is much harder.
Another activation of the Grim Lava Mancer after the flashback of a Faithless Looting there. Means Perini keeps the Boreal Druid from doing any damage, and the block, of course, on the 4/4. Means his life total stays at 6, but, mate, he's desperately trying to keep his snoot above water here. He's got 2 cards in hand. Presumably one of them's good, because he filtered it away with a...
yeah, it's weird that he blocked that previous turn. I think I would have just taken it. If you go to 2, sure, you're dead to a Lightning Bolt, or even like a Bloodbraid Elf that will haste and hit you, but I think you need that Green Lava Master in play. If your opponent plays an Elf or another Matter Reshaper or even a Boharak, you want to be able to use it to kill it. And if you draw a card like Kolaghan's Command, you can use the Lava Master plus the Kolaghan's Command to finish off the Thought-Moths here, which is the card that's killing you. So
Inquisition followed up by a Mishra's Bauble here. Have a look at the top card. See what Margalius is working with. Perini draws a card. Margalius draws a card.
Is it Terminate? Snapcaster Mage?
This is the last chance for Perini. He has to have an answer to this 4/4. What has he got? The tension is...
I think he has a Kolaghan's Command, which doesn't work. Oh, no. Oh, he does have Snapcaster.
All right,
okay.
Snapcaster Mage.
So you Snapcaster Bolt, you'll block and bolt the Thought-Moths here. Right?
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, I wouldn't say that Dismember is the best card for him to flashback here. Yep, it is going to be Lightning Bolt.
Well, it could also be Thought Scour, but that's worse. You're drawing a card either way. You might as well get a Thought-Moths here out of there.
So Lightning Bolt with flashback, and the Thought-Knot Seer with 2 damage marked on it. Of course, Perini doesn't have to cast that bolt until the end of turn, at the latest there. And another Thought-Knot Seer, oh no.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that he didn't. If he just cast in main phase, or not main phase, but during the attack. Oh, and that's weird.
There's an Abrade.
That was not a good play. He should have just abraded the... Oh, no, he wouldn't have. Okay, never mind. He would draw a card. Yeah, that was a good play. Never mind, I'm stupid. Yeah, he had to do that.
A Braid gets exiled, and a Thought Scour off the top as well. Going to fill the bin a little bit more, mill over those 2 cards. And let's see what that last one is. Got to be something special. He's got one more draw as well here, facing down this lethal 4/4.
Ooh, I think he has Lightning Bolt and land.
Yeah, I think it
should
looked like
mean he is just dead.
Bloodstained Mire in hand in addition to that Lightning Bolt there by the look of things here, PV. And that could be the end of this game and indeed this match for Margalies if he can just push through this final 2 points of damage through the red zone, or the blue zone, or the grey zone. What colour is that stripe in the middle there?
Wait, what?
The one with the orange Planeswalker symbol on it. It's like blue, right? Here's a Bloodbraid Elf as well,
You
another
lost
threat.
me.
And we're going to see a Eldrazi Obligator. So 3 attacking creatures here. And a big cheer there for Brennan Margalies. Wow, the cheers squad is out in force for Margalies there. Just to get you across, bring you up to speed there, colorblind. I'm colorblind. So I can't, the middle stripe there, I was like, is it blue, is it grey? I can't really tell.
Okay, you're actually colorblind.
I'm actually colorblind.
Okay, has that ever hurt you in Magic? I
Yeah.
think this card is a color,
Yes,
it's another?
actually, there are some weird cards that to colorblind people look, well, at least to me, look like a different color. For example, Golgari Decoy always looks like a red card for me. I don't know why. And then like the 3/1, what's his name? The Valduk, right?
Sure.
Has the new legendary card frame, the red one. They just looks kind of green. I don't know. It's just it's very very minor. You know, it's never really impacted me in a major way. But yeah, sometimes. I guess I mean, Golgari Decoy gets countered by Flash Freeze no matter what. So, you know.
Yeah, also has Golgari in the name, which makes it easier.
Kind of gives it a clue. That's right. There you go. Anyway. We're going to take a break, my friends. On the other side of these ads, we have, of course, more Magic coming your way. Time Walk Magic coming up after this. We'll see you back in Sao Paulo after just a few moments. Welcome back to the tournament floor here at GP Sao Paulo. Riley Knight joined by the current Player of the Year and Hall of Famer, of course. It is Paulo Dama Rosa, local superstar. You're from just down the road. We're here in Sao Paulo, of course. Porto Alegre, not too far away from here.
Yeah, it's 2 hours south by plane.
Okay.
So 1.5 hours. So it's relatively close for Brazil or for US or Australia.
Yeah.
And very far for Europe.
For Europe, it's
it would be a different country.
several day trek.
Yeah.
That's right, my friends. We do have some Time Walk Magic lined up for you right here and right now. So let's get to it. See what was up on the back tables here for round number 12 of this modern tournament. Felipe Pincelli and Sebastian Pozzo. That's a name that's familiar to me.
Yeah, Pozzo, he played Worlds last year. He was Constructed Master. So
been around.
Definitely a good player, and it's showing. 10-9 is a pretty good record.
Playing Ironworks combo again. This new kid on the block, been made very famous by Matt Nass, who has had a ridiculous record at recent GPs. I think he's like 55-4 or something like that in his most recent GP conquests. It's insane. This man will not stop winning. Yeah,
it's pretty absurd. And Matt Nass is a player that has been doing well for a while now. And kind of no one knows, and he's just always so upset about it. He's like, I'm so underrated, no one gives me any credit. There was a point in time where he was like, 2 points short of platinum.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about her like, well, Matt Nass, no one knows how many points you have. And they're like, yes, they do. And then Huey stopped by, and I'm like, Huey, how many points short of gold you think Matt Nass was this season? He's like, I don't know, 10. And Matt Nass is like, I'm gold, I'm almost platinum. And he just storms off. It's like, this is absurd. Where am I going to get my recognition?
Oh, that's so good.
And now he's getting his recognition.
Yeah, now he gets his recognition as the sort of leading pilot. He's Mr. KCI, this guy. He is the leading pilot of one of the most complicated combo decks you're likely to see. This deck is ridiculous. Now, I'm happy to say, ladies and gentlemen, that finally, my colleague Paulo has done his homework. He's at least pretending to be a professional. He's got pages of notes printed out. He's popped his glasses on his noggin, and he's ready to tell you all about how this deck works, all the ins and outs, because, there's a lot of stuff going on with this list.
There is a lot of stuff, yeah. And you say you're happy about that. Sebastian Pozzo is also very happy he didn't see an Eidolon. Revel in there, which is the card that, if it stays in play, you cannot win. Obviously, Power Spellbomb can stop it, and he in fact does have it, but yeah, pretty slow start for Felipe there, who's just going to deal 2 damage on turn 2.
Yeah, often you want to see from a burn deck, obviously you want to play a Goblin Guide turn 1, Monastery Swiftspear turn 1, those are the best plays, but even something like a Rift Bolt or a Lava Spike is fine. But here Pincelli is off to an uncharacteristically slow start for burn here.
Yeah, and Pozzo even has that Inventor's Fair, just going to gain 1 life next turn, so...
Oh yeah, already Metalcraft activated here with the 4 artifacts that are in play. Not a particularly difficult feat for Ironworks, which is it's almost a mono brown deck, really.
Yeah, for sure. I believe that is the one deck in which Ancient Turns cannot miss. Like, in Lantern it can miss, in Tron it can miss, in Ironworks I don't think it can miss.
There just aren't even 5 cards that it couldn't pick from. Lightning Bolt upstairs, in addition to an activation of the Grim Lavamancer to finish off Pincelli's second turn. We'll see what's on the menu for turn number 3 here. He's found his 3rd land, not always what you want in burn. Often it can function just on 2 lands. Oh, got a handful of instants, I see.
Yeah, he kind of needs the 3rd land here because he wants to be able to cast a 2-mana card and also use Green Lavamancer, though he would rather it was a fetch land because that is just more fuel for the Lavamancer.
So it looks like we're going to see a Skullcrack in response to that Inventor's Fair.
Nice.
Which, of course, means that Pozzo won't gain that life after all there.
Yeah, and Ironworks is a deck that, I don't believe its strength is not in how explosive it is, because there are much faster decks. You're playing Storm, you can win faster. If you're playing, Gristlebrand, you can win on turn 2. Ironworks cannot do that. No. It often just wins on turn 4. But it's very, very resilient. Like, a lot of cards that you think, I have this Disenchant in my hand, I'm going to beat Ironworks. No, you're not. No. You could still lose to it. And in fact, we've seen it. We've seen it beat those cards a lot throughout the tournament. And how it works is effectively it plays. It's a Karkling Ironworks and Scrap Trawler deck. So it aims to get those 2 in play, and then cycle through its deck a lot to eventually find one of its infinite combos. So it's different than Eggs, a deck like Eggs, Second Sunrise and Stars. That deck, it just kept going and going and going, and at some point it got to 0 cards in your library, and then that's how you beat your opponent. Ironworks is not like that. It has infinite loops that it can perform much earlier than that. So its goal is to find one of those infinite loops. And I think there are 4 main loops that you have to keep in mind. There might be more. We're always finding new things about this deck.
Yeah.
But the general idea is that when you have Ironworks in play, everything costs -2, right? So a star, which normally costs 1, will generate 1 extra mana instead of costing 1. A Mox Opal will generate 3 because it taps and then it sacrifices.
Yeah.
Ironworks, instead of costing 4, costs 2. So the 2 primary loops are, the first one is, I think, when you have 2 Mirror Retrievers and anything that doesn't cost a lot, like any star, for example. Then you have to have Ironworks and Scrap Trawler. You always need those cards. So when you play a Mirror Retriever, it costs 0 because you're going to play for 2 and sacking it. So you're not spending any mana. So Mirror Retriever is 0. And if you have 2 of them, they will return each other if they both go together at the same time. And will also return a 1 mana card if you have Scrap Trawler in play. So that is just 0 mana, return a 1 mana card. And we know that 1 mana cards are actually -1 mana cards.
They're going to gain you
so
mana, yeah.
Each time you return a sphere, you draw a card, and not a sphere, a star or a terrarium, you draw a card and get a mana. So that is an infinite combo that generates infinite mana and infinite cards. The second combo is about you have to cast a spell, and then to pay the cost of that spell, you have to sacrifice Scrap Trawler and Mirror Retriever at the exact same time to pay for the cost of the spell. This is something you can do per rules of Magic. You can't just sacrifice them at the same time if you want to, but if you're casting a spell, even if it costs just 1, then you can do that. So you cast a star, and then you sacrifice the Scrap Trawler and the Mirror Retriever. And then the Scrap Trawler will return the Mirror Retriever because of its ability, and the Mirror Retriever will return the Scrap Trawler because of its ability. And then there's also the Scrap Trawler trigger from the Mirror Retriever. So you're returning an extra 1 mana artifact from your graveyard.
So you're sacrificing 2 creatures or 2 artifacts, but getting 3 back from your bin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is the sequence that it costs you 6 mana to replay. So you have to replay the Star, the Retriever, and the Scrap Trawler. But it also gains you 6 mana because you're replaying 3 artifacts.
Yeah, and you're drawing cards
So
each time
every
as well.
time that you do this, you're net 0 mana, but you're drawing cards. And eventually you'll find like a Mox Opal, and that's how you generate mana. So that is the second loop.
And we may see one of these loops begin pretty soon now that Pozzo has the namesake card on the battlefield. KCI itself, Krark Clan Ironworks. And we'll see Pozzo now float 2 to sacrificing a Ichor Wellspring, and there is a Mox Opal as well. So the mana train well and truly leaving the station. We'll see what Pozzo has in hand. I mean, this is the other thing that's important to note. The value is not just coming from the graveyard PV. This deck, thanks to Chromatic Stars, thanks to Ichor Wellsprings, thanks to Terrarians, is able to draw a lot of cards very quickly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, even if you don't have any of the infinite combos, you actually just draw a bunch of cards and you find them. And I think also one of the biggest strengths in this deck is the fact that its lands are good. So Darksteel Citadel sacks for 2 mana, and then Boy Ruins and Adventurous Fair all find your pieces or get your pieces back. So it's very rare you can play a combat deck that has such powerful lands, and KCI can't do that. But yeah, another different loop that you can do that is less common, is just kind of like a variation of the loop, but it's like when you have a Star or a Sphere, a Mox Opal, and a Mirror Retriever. So you announce that you're going to sacrifice your star. Right, you say, I'm going to sacrifice my star, and now I have to pay for it. And then to pay the cost, you sacrifice the Ironworks, the Retriever, and the Mox Opal, which makes 7 mana. Like the Mox tap for mana, and then you sacrifice 3 artifacts. And then because of the way things trigger, everything is going to come back to your hand. Because the Ironworks is going to trigger from the Trawler, and will return the Retriever, and the Retriever will return the Ironworks. So the moment you do that, everything ends back in your hand, and you spend the same 7 mana to replay all your cards, except you've drawn a card.
Except you've drawn a card. So yeah, it's a complicated way to draw an extra card at the top of your library, and as soon as you've got something like a Mox Opal, you begin to net mana.
Yes. And then, so basically all the combos are variations of, sacrifice multiple artifacts at the same time. If you don't understand how this rule works, then you're not going to be able to go infinite at all, or nearly as often.
It's a super, super weird interaction, a super weird rules corner case that doesn't come up very often at all, and one that basically the entire deck revolves around. It's not the sort of thing that in playing a regular game of Magic you're ever going to come across, but it's not. I mean, people describe it as a loophole, which I don't like, because that sort of, it implies a level of sort of chicanery or skullduggery. It's not that, it's just weird.
Well, I believe it's something that, no one consciously thought about the rules and
Yeah.
said, I want this to work this way. They were just like, okay, those are the rules, and it happens to work this way.
It's a side effect, right?
So now Puzzle, he's playing an explosives, and this is another interesting particularity of those rules. You cannot be paying for a 0 mana card. So you have to be casting a card that you have to pay for. And then, even if you have to pay 1, you can sacrifice 2 artifacts, and you get 4 mana, you're paying 1, that's fine. If you're casting a Mox Opal or an Explosive for 0, you cannot do that.
And the key thing here is that the Scrap Trawler and the Mirror Retriever triggers go onto the stack at the same time without any opportunity for any player to respond, because they're part of a mana ability thanks to the Krark Clan Ironworks. Now, Pincelli's just sitting here. He's F6ing. He's got his arms crossed. Pozzo's on a healthy 7 life. There's nothing that Pincelli could have for 2 mana that's going to do anything about that. And so now it's just up to Pozzo to demonstrate a loop here. Show that he can draw enough cards, gain enough mana to eventually start looping Pyrite Spell Bombs. That's ultimately the win condition for this deck. It used to play the Emrakul, the Promised End. Doesn't anymore.
Yeah, I believe Emrakul is basically training wheels.
Yeah,
it's something, if you don't understand how the combo works, or if you just need some assurance that your Pyrite Spell Bombs won't be Surgical Extraction, or if you're playing on Magic Online and you don't have the time to do 150 clicks per turn, which I certainly don't. I'm really bad at that.
You're a busy man.
Yeah, I am. It's more like I'll just run out of time and lose, not because I have other stuff to do. And then you need something that kills them immediately, and Emrakul does that. But it's much better to play Pirate Spellbomb, because that's just a card that works with your combo. Yeah,
it's sort of like playing Celestial Colonnade in a white-blue deck. It's a win condition hidden in the mana base. Or, for example, in white-blue control, in Standard, we see Teferi acting as an engine piece and also a win condition. Well, Pozzo takes out game number 1 rather convincingly. Pincello, of course, Pincelli not really having anything to say about that. And it was right on time as well, PV. You said it would happen on turn 4, that the KCI deck often goes off, and that's exactly what we saw there with Pozzo.
Yeah, it is pretty consistent at going off on turn 4. And now we're going to see, at least some interaction from Felipe. I don't have his deck list, but he will have Destructive Revelries. He might have Surgical Extraction, a card like Resting Peace, even Stony Silence. Those are all possible in a burn deck. So on top of the Idol one, which is basically I win the game unless you remove me card.
Often the white, of course, the emblematic white card in the burn deck is, of course, Boros Charm, or Lightning Helix, and that's why we see Sacred Foundry played. But I tell you what, I'd love to see more Stony Silences appearing in the board of burn decks moving forward. Obviously great against Affinity, but so good against KCI. Even random upside against decks like Tron and, of course, Lantern Control. So I like Stony Silence a lot. I mean, if you're playing a white deck in Modern, you should have this card in your 75 somewhere.
Yeah, the thing about Stony Silence is that a lot of the time you need to play cards that are good against multiple archetypes. So for example, like, should I play Stony Silence or Disenchant? Right, Disenchant is going to be good against the same decks Stony Silence is good against, because they have artifacts. It's also going to be good against Boggles. It's also going to be good against Blue-White, because they have the Tension Sphere, Search for Ascanta. So it's a card you board in more. But we're getting to a point where there's so many artifact-based decks that Stony Silence is not just for one deck anymore. It used to be just for Affinity, but now it's for so many different decks. It's it's actually a super hateful hate card that you can play while not being too narrowed. Oh, that's not going to work very well. But
a Destructive Revelry.
Yeah, Pozzo will get to draw a card anyway.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe was the intention from Felipe, especially because he knows Pozzo has a Mind Stone from the Goblin Guide, so it's much better to wait and destroy the Mind Stone, which, actually accomplishes something.
Well, that's the way that Pincello's chosen to play it here. It doesn't get as sort of giving up a fair bit of value there with that Destructive Revelry, but hey, that's the way that it goes. Pozzo.
Yeah, I believe he didn't realize that Pozzo would draw a card anyway.
I mean, look, I'm not going to fault someone for not knowing all of the text on the card Terraria.
Oh, no, of course you shouldn't, but given that the combo relies on the fact that you don't have to sacrifice it for his own ability, it seems weird that it didn't at least come up in game 1. So it's probably something that he just forgot.
Mind Stone powers out a Chromatic Star here for Pozzo. And Pincelli once again just putting all the pressure that he can on his opponent. He needs to get that life total down as low as possible. Of course, he started on the play, which is huge. And a third land now for Pincelli. We'll see what else he can bring to bear here. I mean, I do have to agree with what you say there, Paulo. The Destructive Revelry perhaps wasn't the best use of that card that we saw there from Pincelli. He certainly could have put it to better use, one would think. Let's see what his next move is here. In comes the old Goblin Guide. Finds a Chromatic Star. Oop. Dead end. Pots it down to 12. Pincelli suspends a Rift Bolt.
Yeah, I mean, Pincelli could win next turn. This burn deck is capable of a turn 4 Goldfish as well, and he's on the play. But we also see Nature's Claim from Pozo.
Oh, yeah.
Which
has not necessarily been brought in to deal with opposing artifacts and enchantments, although it does get rid of the Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, it's really good against board. It gets rid of the Eidolon, it gets rid of Resting Peace or Starly Silence, and the fact that you will still have a target even if they don't have those cards. Because, it's awkward to board them in when you don't know if your opponent will have the hate, then you just draw that card, they don't have it, you're like, well, I'm feeling like a fool now.
Yeah, blank cardboard. Yeah.
But the fact that you have a target in the Eidolon anyway, and also you can target your own things to gain 4 life, which usually means you're buying a whole turn.
Yeah, it's like a card. Gaining 4 life against a burn deck is actually a card to 1.3 of a card that you're gaining there. Healing Salve is a great card when you're playing against burn.
Oh, yeah. And just the combination of things, maybe you wouldn't play Healing Salve, you probably would. If you had access to it, the fact that it also deals with the hate cards that you cannot beat otherwise makes it a great inclusion against burn. And also, they rely on the fact that, this Terrarian type of card, even if you destroy your own artifact, you get to draw a card. And you can always target Darksteel Citadel, of course.
Mere Retriever, the play for Pozzo. We'll see what Pincelli's response is. He's got 3 cards in hand, Skullcrack, Lightning Helix, and Scalding Tarn. 5 damage ready to be unloaded next turn thanks to the Rift Bolt and the Goblin Guide here. Looks like the Retriever is going to resolve, however. See what Pozzo's next move is here.
Yeah, now Pozzo is considering playing that Nature's Claim when he has the window, because he knows he won't be Skullcracked since Felipe tapped his mana, and he has to kind of worry about Skullcrack here. It's very unlikely that he dies. He has a blocker, which I assume is going to... I don't actually know what he targeted with Lightning Helix. I assume he targeted Pozzo. But yeah, he has a blocker, and he's going to gain 4 life. So he's not really going to die here, but...
So filters a green mana through that Chromatic Star and plays a... a Healing Salve, essentially. It gains 4, doesn't destroy the Darksteel Citadel, of course, which has Indestructible. PV, if you want to see an interesting journey that card templating and rules text has the way that it's changed over the years, have a look at the continued reprinting of Darksteel Citadel, because it just loses word after word after word after word. Because originally it's Darksteel Citadel is indestructible, add colorless to your mana pool, and then it just becomes indestructible, add colorless to your mana pool, and now it's just indestructible, add colorless.
Soon enough, it would just be indestructible colorless.
Like, it's just lost, all the like, next they get rid of the flavor text. Then they take off the art.
And then it becomes a Ben Stark.
The Ben Stark special, exactly. He's like, this card's perfect.
Yeah.
It can't get any better.
For sure. And Felipe is really thinking for a long time here, which is unusual because I don't think he has a whole lot of decisions here. And here, he knows Pozo didn't have a land last turn, though he could have drawn it from that Chromatic Star. But he also knows Pozo is not going to draw a land this turn, so it's not super likely that he will get comboed, since you need 4 mana to play Ironworks. If Pozo ever does get to 4 mana, then I believe he's just going to win the game.
Mere Retriever jumps in the way of the Goblin Guide. Pozzo stays on 10. Draws that Chromatic Star, or Chromatic Sphere, I should say, that you mentioned. Triple Star in hand as well. Stars are out tonight here for Sebastian Pozzo.
And here he has 2 options. He can play the Scrap Trawler, which I don't think is good. Well, that's what he's going to do.
Okay.
Because he just wants to make sure he doesn't die. So the Trawler will get back the Mere Retriever, and that will buy him, 1 turn, effectively. Maybe more. Maybe it's a good play. It depends on how much burn Pincelli has, because if Pozo just plays a bunch of stars and spheres here, then he is almost guaranteed to go off next turn, because he will find a land. But he could just die, But he will only die if Felipe can produce 8 points worth of burn in 2 cards per Anil's draw. which does require then to be 2 Boros Charms or 3 different burn spells.
So we know that Pincelli has Skullcrack, Scalding Tarn in hand.
Okay.
So he's not set up to win next turn.
No, he can't. And the way Puzzle did this, he
I think
might
it's going to
be
work.
buying it. Oh, yeah, it
I
will
think it's going to
work.
work out from here.
But the other way would also work, right?
Sure.
Because he's not dying either way. I mean, this way is the way where you're least likely to die. But also, now he's just going to win the game.
All right. Okay, so here we go now. That's the 4th mana, and we're going to see, of course, all of it tap to play KCI, Krak Clan Ironworks. With the Mirror Retriever out, with the Scrap Trawler out now for Potso as well, things are looking good for him. Let's see if he can thread this needle and take it out. 2-0. Could be another tournament where KCI makes a strong appearance.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it already is that. Even if, Pozak and South doesn't top 8, we've seen a decent amount of it. We've seen it winning a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would say it's a tournament that is kind of like confirming that KCI has a place in the metagame. Is just not just a one-trick, a one-time kind of thing.
Do you know the animal that does one trick?
Is it a pony?
It's a pony, well done.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were aware of the idiom. I wasn't going to fault you for it. Like, English idioms are super, super dumb.
No, I know the idiom, but then I thought more about it, and I thought it doesn't actually fit what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean,
a one-trick pony is would be a deck that does only one thing, not a deck that's only done it once.
Yes, no, that's a flash in the pan.
I guess. Yes, that would be a better idiom. Yeah.
Do you know where flash in the pan comes from?
I assume it's from like the speed with when you're cooking or something.
Yeah, it's not cooking actually. It's the pan that people used to use to pan for gold. So they'd put a big like lump, a bunch of rocks from the river or like pebbles, gravel into the pan. They'd swirl it around, and if they saw a flash, they go, "Oh, that might be gold." But if it was just a flash off the bottom of the pan, it was a flash in the pan. It's something that got your hopes up but didn't last.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a cool idiom.
Magic coverage, very educational.
Oh yeah, don't even worry about it.
And it's funny because all this is going on, and we can talk about those things. We can talk about Flash in the Pan, but Felipe can't do anything.
No, he's got to sit there and eat it. He's got to sit there and absolutely eat this for breakfast because Potso now, he's like, yeah, just sit here and watch me play Magic, dude.
I believe Potso already has, everything that he needs to produce an infinite combo. I'm not actually sure, but even if he doesn't, now he most definitely does.
We can just speed things up a little bit here, Paulo.
Yeah, like the Scrap Trawler is just going to become a Mirror Retriever, at which point he has infinite.
Mm-hmm. So Scrap Trawler, once again, Mirror Retriever, assembling that loop. Potso is an old hand at it by now, and he's got 500,000 mana flooding. Pincelli says, like, yeah, this Skullcrack's a great card, isn't it? Wow. And now Potso going through the motions. Pincelli, I mean, really has no necessarily reason to concede here, apart from the fact that he's basically stone cold dead. Depends how highly he values his time, essentially.
Yeah, and our time.
And our time as well. Well, as you can see, we have sped things up a little bit.
Yeah. Ooh, I remember the expression I wanted to.
Oh, go on.
It was, when a band releases one good song, like a one-hit wonder.
Oh, yeah, one-hit wonder.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. But I think Flashing the Pen might be better.
Well, either one is certainly applicable here. Pincelli gives us the still got all these, but none of these, in fact, were enough. Potso taking the game out in straight sets there. 2-0. Congratulations. As we welcome you back to the booth, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Riley Knight, joined by my partner in crime, Paulo Vita Rosa, the Hall of Famer and Brazilian superstar. Of course, been great to hang out with him. Been great to hang out with you as well, my friends, throughout this weekend. We are going to check out what's up next here at GP Sao Paulo. Of course, huge GP. Brazil, the biggest in Brazil. Is it the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere even?
Oh, I mean, I assume so. What's going to beat it? Australia?
Okay, excuse me. This was not the can of worms that I particularly wanted to open here like that. But look, Australia and Brazil both have some similarities, I suppose, in this regard. Both have, big, very strong communities that don't get too many GPs coming down towards the Southern Hemisphere. Often overlook the Southern Hemisphere, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
In many ways, the superior hemisphere.
Oh, of course.
I mean, naturally.
I mean, yeah, we all agree.
We all agree. I mean, let's take a quick poll. Southern Hemisphere, of course. Me as well.
Yeah.
So that's 100%. That's a statistically significant sample size, I would say. So there you go. Southern Hemisphere confirmed best hemisphere. You know what, actually, this is not a joke. I was.
It's not a joke. It actually
is. Not a joke. It actually
objectively. Okay.
But I went up the Padua Suca in Rio, and as the sun went down, I looked up, I saw the Southern Cross in the sky, which I don't see very often. I live in Scotland, so I don't see it too often. And honestly, I was just like, there's my
Some
boy.
Southern Hemisphere pride.
That's it, man. That's it. The other thing, the thing I have to point out here about the Southern Cross, and any Australian watching this will know that we love that. We love the Southern Cross. We're all about that constellation. We think it's like it's ours. It's our symbol. It's on your flag. It's on the flag of New Zealand. It's on the flag of like Tonga and all these other nations. But for some reason, Australia's like, nah, it's ours. We got a monopoly on it. Anyway, that's enough of that. Southern Hemisphere chat continues, my friend. After these ads, we've got to go to a break. On the other side of it, of course, however, more magic coming your way from GP Sao Paulo. But for now, it's Paulo and Riley. We'll catch you very soon back here in Brazil.